When and how do I cut the cords for my adult children? I'm still paying their car insurance and phone bills.
Uh, that's a good question, right? I mean, because these are your kids. Obviously, we don't know from this question, some of the background, or, are the adult children fully employed or not?
Yeah.
If you're cutting them off, what was the question? It was for insurance and phone bill?
Yeah, car insurance and phone bill.
Phone bill, okay. So, you don't want them to, not have car
Yeah,
insurance
that'd be a
because they
big.
don't have a job, because that could come back to haunt you too. And so let's assume that they have a job. Then personally, I'm cutting them off pretty quick as far as that goes.
Yeah.
The phone bill's kind of a weird one though, because the way these family plans work and such, and it's not super onerous to keep the kids on the phone bill, but um, with car insurance, I would like to have the kids be financially independent, and also, making sure that that car and that car insurance is both in their names.
Yeah.
I feel like, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not positive, but I feel like that gives a little bit of insulation from my personal wealth, right? From my kids getting in an accident, right?
Yeah.
So that is something I'd advocate because I have seen that actually where uh, um, one of my friends' son got in an accident, and then they sued him because the car was still in his
His
name.
yeah, his
Yeah,
titled in his
and
name.
he'd never even driven the car. It was his son's car. They just hadn't moved the title, into his name after he turned 18, and so those are the types of things. But there is the other strategy is, hey, I've got a child who isn't getting out there and isn't getting the work done,
Yeah, so
right?
how can I force them to kind of.
Yeah, so I have a strategy that I've been advocating for a while, which is just, you say, all right, it's X amount. Let's just say it's $3,000 a month for that child to be out of your house
Mhm.
in their own place. Maybe it's shared or whatever. I'm making up the numbers here, but and so you sit down with that child who's still struggling to find a job or keep a job and say, okay, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to pay 3,000, and then over 3 years, I'm going to reduce it by 136 basically.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take off, a couple $100 a month, and you've got to make that couple $100, right? And then the next year it's going to be 400. And so you know what I'm saying. So over a 36-month period, you're going to go down to zero.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they got to figure out how to make the money.
Yeah, and so I think, that way you're not throwing them out in the street. The amount that they got to make up front is quite small, and then they kind of can build that up. And if they make more than that, great. Hopefully they save it or whatever. But you're basically committed to this kind of 36-month ramp down.
So would you switch all their bills and stuff like that into their name at that start of that period, and then kind of provide them the funds to pay the bills?
Yeah, yeah, ideally, exactly right. And because then, it does, I think that bridges this kind of gap where you've got a scenario where, the kids having a hard time getting started. And I've seen this both within our own family and within, the families of some of my clients, right? Where, some of the kids have a trouble getting going, right? And if you provide everything for them and keep doing that, it's hard for them to get motivated, at least
Hmm.
financially. I know for me, I look at like my background, and I just my parents were middle class, definitely, but I wanted other things that they weren't willing to provide. I was working since I was 10 just to kind of get those things, and but if all that would have been given to me, maybe I wouldn't have been as motivated to get
Hmm.
out there and work. Um, and so this is a way to kind of make it a softer landing, right? So okay, I'm taking care of everything up front, but then it's going to reduce slowly but surely, giving you that. I'm making up the numbers. It could be less than 3 years, more than 3 years, but in this case, I'm giving you that 3 years to kind of get it going. you
Yeah,
know
and if they're living at home and say you want to force them to kind of start to, in a sense, pay for expenses,
yeah,
you could, but you don't really need them to pay. You could say, "Hey, I want you to save $1,000 a month or some
yep,
sort of
yep,
number,"
yep,
and then basically that would be your food costs or your rent or something like that, a combination, and that way they're saving money, but you're kind of teaching them to have that budget for that money.
yeah, yeah. That's what I did. Exactly right. I mean, so instead of charging them rent or charging them for food, I just made it a requirement that a certain amount of money had to go into a savings account, brokerage account, something, Because I think that that's a big deal to be able to, again, assuming the child has some income, right? But learning that saving habit, and you mentioned this early in the show. I mean, that's the number one thing that we see with our clients. That's, they aren't all good at their tax, planning, their retirement planning, their asset management. Some of them are better than others, right?
Yeah,
That's a big mixture. But one thing they're all good at,
saving money.
all of them. And that's the difference. And so that's from our own experience. It's the thing we've learned, from being in this practice is that's the key aspect is that ability to save money. So teaching your kids to save money, that's a good strategy. And so it kind of gets them on their own too. And then they're kind of used to, saving, but they're also used to having some money come out of their lifestyle, which is what's going to happen when they do move out, right? They're going to have money going out and, their lifestyle might improve, but not living at home or whatever. But there's going to be money that goes for that. So yeah, it's a good question. It's something we end up dealing with this a fair amount actually within the practice. So it's probably helpful.